I'm Dr. Richard Hoefer from the University of Texas at Arlington's School of Social Work. With strong support from the Hogg Foundation for Mental Health, I'm presenting information to help you learn more about the recovery to practice movement and what the background and assumptions of recovery are. The purpose of this training is to advance the goal of the Hogg Foundation Recovery to Practice grant program. We seek to enhance the implementation of recovery-oriented practice among behavioral health practitioners through participation in comprehensive discipline-specific training, including for social workers. This information will be helpful to anyone interested in learning about the recovery approach to improving mental health services, whether they are still students or are experienced practitioners. In this video, you'll learn the negative impacts of mental health issues and substance abuse. You'll also discover the services needed to fulfill aspects of recovery and how these services address the negative impacts of mental health and substance abuse. Finally, you'll learn some basic assumptions involved in recovery. 4 negative impacts of severe mental health and substance abuse have been described as part of the medical model of rehabilitation. This model has also been used when developing the basis of recovery in combination with community services addressing each stage. It is designed to show the stages of progression in mental illness, where the first stage is impairment. Impairment can be described as any loss or abnormality of psychological, physiological, or anatomical function. Stage 2, dysfunction, occurs when a person displays any restriction or lack of ability to perform an activity within the range considered normal for that human being. Stage 3, disability, is defined as any restriction or lack of ability to perform a role in the manner or within the range considered normal for that human being. The final stage, disadvantage, is defined as a lack of opportunity for an individual that limits or prevents the performance of an activity considered normal for that individual, considering sex, age, social, and cultural factors. These negative impacts are important to know due to the nature of diagnosis in the medical model-based healthcare system. Recovery accepts that these impacts occur, but does not accept that they are impossible to overcome, even if mental health or substance abuse issues continue. Recovery was created based on the assessment that an individual could be considered in recovery, but may still suffer. For example, a person with paraplegia can recover even though the spinal cord has not. Similarly, a person with mental illness can recover even though the illness is not cured. Recovery involves services addressing the needs of the whole person, not just the symptoms. The essential components needed by a community to provide adequate services and support can be divided into 8 categories. Treatment, to alleviate symptoms and distress. Crisis intervention, to control or resolve critical or dangerous problems. Case management, where individuals obtain the services they need and want. Rehabilitation, to develop skills and supports related to client goals. Basic support, providing things a client needs to survive, such as shelter, meals, and health care. 3 other categories exist as well. These include rights protection, to advocate for one's rights, enrichment, to engage clients in fulfilling and satisfying activities, and the final category, self-help, where clients exercise a voice and a choice in their life, attaining empowerment. The services mainly directed at the impairment are the traditional clinical services of treatment, crisis intervention, case management, rehabilitation, and basic support. In a recovery-oriented system, these services deal with only a part of the impact of mental health and substance use symptoms. Recovery-oriented services include rights protection, enrichment, and self-help. Major recovery may occur without complete symptom relief. That is, a person may still experience major episodes of symptom exacerbation, yet has significantly restored task and role performance and/or removed significant opportunity barriers. From a recovery perspective, those successful outcomes may have led to the growth of new meaning and purpose in the person's life. This chart illustrates the basic design of rehabilitation and recovery by displaying what services impact each stage represented in the rehabilitation model. In the left column, each category is displayed as well as the desired outcome for that service. Again, recovery does not mean the person is cured. Recovery is described as a deeply personal, unique process of changing one's attitudes, values, feelings, goals, skills, and roles. It's a way of living a satisfying, hopeful, and contributing life even with the limitations caused by illness. Recovery involves the development of new meaning and purpose in one's life as one grows beyond the catastrophic effects of mental health and substance use. Recovery involves much more than recovery from the disorder itself. People with mental health and substance use issues may have to recover from the stigma they have incorporated into their very being, from the effects of treatment settings, from lack of recent opportunities for self-determination, from the negative side effects of unemployment, and from crushed dreams. Recovery is often a complex, time-consuming process. There are 7 basic assumptions practitioners must be aware of in relation to recovery. We'll go over each one of these one by one. Assumption 1. Recovery can occur without professional intervention. Professionals do not hold the key to recovery. Consumers do. The task of professionals is to facilitate recovery. The task of consumers is to recover. Recovery may be facilitated by the consumer's natural support system. After all, if recovery is a common human condition experienced by us all, then people who are in touch with their own recovery can help others through the process. Self-help groups, families, and friends are the best examples of this phenomenon. It's important for mental health providers to recognize that what promotes recovery is not simply the array of mental health services. Also essential to recovery are non-mental health activities and organizations. Sports, clubs, adult education, and churches are all important. There are many paths to recovery, including choosing not to be involved in the mental health system. Assumption 2. A common denominator of recovery is the presence of people who believe in and stand by the person in need of recovery. Seemingly universal in the recovery concept is the notion that critical to one's recovery is a person or persons in whom one can trust to be there in times of need. People who are recovering talk about the people who believed in them when they did not even believe in themselves, who encouraged their recovery but did not force it, who tried to listen and understand when nothing seemed to be making sense. Recovery is a deeply human experience, facilitated by the deeply human responses of others. Recovery can be facilitated by anyone, and all it takes is one person. Recovery can be everybody's business. Assumption 3. A recovery vision is not a function of one's theory about the causes of the disorder. Whether the causes of mental health or substance use are biological, psychosocial, or some combination is a controversial topic. It generates considerable debate among professionals, advocates, and consumers. Adopting a recovery vision does not commit one to any position on this debate, nor on the use or non-use of medical interventions. Recovery may occur whether one views the illness as biological or not. Assumption 4. Recovery can occur even though symptoms reoccur. The episodic nature of mental health and substance use does not prevent recovery. People with other illnesses that might be episodic can still recover. Individuals who experience intense psychiatric symptoms episodically can also recover. Recovery changes the frequency and duration of symptoms. People who are recovering and experience symptom exacerbation may have a level of symptom intensity as bad as or even worse than previously experienced. As one recovers, the symptom frequency and duration appear to have been changed for the better. That is, symptoms interfere with functioning less often and for briefer periods of time. More of one's life is lived symptom-free. Symptom reoccurrence becomes less of a threat to one's recovery, and return to previous function occurs more quickly after exacerbation. Assumption 5. Recovery is a unique process for each individual person. There is no one path to recovery, nor one single outcome that everyone reaches or is even seeking to reach. People working in recovery have each their own path, and the people working with them, the professionals, must also help them on their own journey. Assumption 6. Recovery demands that each person has choices. The notion that one has options from which to choose is often more important than the particular option one initially selects. People recovering must be allowed to learn from their actions and to select a different option than their first choice. Assumption 7. Recovery from the consequences of the illness is sometimes more difficult than recovering from the illness itself. Symptoms of dysfunction, disability, and disadvantage are often more difficult than impairment issues. An inability to perform valued tasks and roles and the resultant loss of self-esteem are significant barriers to recovery. The barriers brought about by being placed in the category of mentally ill can be overwhelming. These disadvantages include loss of rights and equal opportunities, and discrimination in employment and housing. Barriers created by the symptoms attempts at helping, such as lack of opportunities for self-determination and disempowering treatment practices, can combine to limit a person's recovery, even though one has become predominantly asymptomatic. The concepts of recovery were developed in the 1990s when clients revealed the ability to find purpose and empowerment while engaged in symptom treatment and rehabilitation. These ideas and assumptions are intended to guide practitioners in assisting clients in recovery while sustaining treatment for symptoms and rehabilitation. It's important as professionals to remember the assumptions associated with recovery in order to better assist individuals. In the next video, you'll learn the importance of peer support and self-care and how to apply them to the areas of mental health and substance abuse.